I am going to talk about me, which is my favourite subject. So thank you for putting up with that for about the next 35 to 40 minutes. We'll have some questions at the end. So if you get questions as we go through, scribble them down, and we'll have a Q&A session. And when I was preparing this, I thought what to talk about, and I thought, well, book 5 is now out, which is Bouncing Back. Significant for two reasons. Reason one, it's my 5th book, and when I started writing, I was told by a very well-established author, darling, she said, you're not really an author until you've had 5 books published, which when I'd only written 1 and didn't have any more ideas in my head, seemed like a complete challenge. So for me, 5 means I'm now a proper author, so I can say I'm an author in all good conscience. The other thing that's really interesting about it, of course, not only for the networking that we have tonight, where we've all bounced back into the room, but it's a very personal journey. And I think people like stories, and they like personal stories. And I write a lot about me and what I do and where I've been, because it helps me to reflect on my journey and think, actually, most of what I'm going to talk about tonight, and maybe what I have in a business context, I didn't have 3-4 years ago. So I am going to talk a bit about me, give you some context. I'm going to introduce you to one of my favourite words, which is physis. That's not physics, physis. I'm going to talk about transition, because the nature of bouncing back is about progressing from point A all the way through to point B. And then we'll do some thinking towards the end of this piece. So if you can make sure your brains, please, are kept fully switched to on, and do some thinking as we go through, that would be very good. You're welcome to take notes. You're also welcome not to take notes. One of the things I've learned is that I write too much, which might seem paradoxical for a writer, but actually there are times when you want to put the pens down and just listen and trust your intuition to take in what works for you. So the choice is there. You can either scribble, or you can just listen, or if you want to, of course, you can always buy the book. So, 2009, who remembers what it was like in 2009? Good year or rubbish year? Brilliant. For me, it was rubbish. A course that I taught on had been going 20 years. You'd have bet your house the course would have gone on for another 20 years. Queen's award-winning, massively prestigious program, cancelled. Clients that I had who had employed me for 4 or 5 years as a coach and a trainer and a corporate development person, cancelled. In fact, not only that, they got rid of some of their training managers. So there was nobody to write purchase orders and to book training. And in the back end of the banking disaster, shall we call it, I think I lost about 70% of my customers within a 6-month period. Now, for those of you who can do maths quite quickly, you can't run a business on 30% of what you had before. It's incredibly difficult unless you can do something magical with your overheads. So I didn't really have a business, to be honest. And I've been in business now since 2002, so I'd spent 7 years building it up just to watch it pretty much fall off the edge of a cliff. Not for anything I'd done, actually. My diary was booked 18 months ahead, and then suddenly it wasn't. And the reason my bouncing back is a personal story, and it's a story of clients who I've worked with and situations that I've come across, it's but actually where I am now is brilliant. And if I hadn't have had 2009, I wouldn't have all that I have today. And when I think about it, I think, how fantastic. Because today, I've got loads of hats. I have a radio hat. So as you know, I present Business Life with my co-host Julie. And this is a broadcast recorder. You may see me and Julie around town. And if any of you want to get on the radio without having to come into the studio, take a business card and get hold of me. And we can go and drink coffee. And I can do a two-way interview with you. And you can tell me all about your business. And when you get this stuck under your chin, most people dry up. So what we do is we have coffee and cake and talk for half an hour and then have some fun with it. This is great fun to do. And if any of you want to interview me, you're very welcome, because I'll talk for hours. I didn't have that in 2009. I do radio once a week, and I love it. And I do it because I love it. No other reason, really. It's just the most fun you can have. I also didn't have a book contract. I had written this particular book. My boss is a rather naughty word, because I'd had some tough experiences at work, and I thought, do you know what? It's time to put some of these into print and to comment on some of these experiences that I've had. Now, this book has just been reprinted which is really nice, actually. So it's been in print 6 years and coming out for a second time. But that was the only book I'd written. I had another one that had done okay. Didn't really have that. So didn't have many clients, didn't have a radio show, didn't have a book contract, hadn't been around the world, was just kind of rich, really. It's just my name, not as in rich in money. And that was it. So I had a choice at that point. I could get cross and cry and get frustrated and cry some more and beat my chest. And I did all of those things, quite honestly. I'm not going to pretend that I sat at home saying, gosh, this is a terribly interesting situation. I think I'll just talk to a coach and dig my way out of it. That'll be marvellous. It didn't work like that. It was miserable. It was horrible. It was raw. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do any of this. So I switched my business off completely. And I swept my desk clean. And I wrote half a book about being a dad. Went to see my publisher and said, Martin, I've got this great book about being a dad. And he said, you don't know anything about being a dad, Rich. I've got 4 children. I always say 4 children, 1 of each flavour, because we've got twins as well, which is an interesting dynamic. And he said, I'm sorry, but you don't know anything about being a dad. Well, even with 4 children, how many more children do I need to produce in order to qualify to write a book? And he said, you don't. You're not an educationalist. You're a business guy. Oh, gone all the way to London for nothing. He put some books on the table, and I said, what are you looking for? He said, oh, job books sell quite well. Do you know anything about job hunting? And I said, funny thing is, I've been lecturing on this at Cranfield for the last 5 years, and I'm probably one of the top guys in the UK. And then he said, well, let's do a book together, and didn't have anywhere to write it, so I blagged some office space and was writer in residence for a PR company. So I'd answer the phone and say, hello, Richard speaking, writer in residence. And they would say, sorry, who are you? Oh, I'm the new writer. I'm writing a book, you know. And I did that for 3 months, virtually full-time, wrote Job Hunting 3.0, which has since been reprinted, and it's been top 1,500 in the charts on Amazon, so, you know, bestseller worldwide. How cool is that? So I've now got a book. And then, of course, after that, I wrote another book called How to Keep Your Job. Oh, how I wish I had this book 10 years ago. I don't know whether any of you have been in the unfortunate place to lose your jobs. I have, 2 or 3 times. Most of the time I now realise it was my fault. They kept choosing me for some reason. It took me a few years to work that out, that I was the common denominator between all these businesses. At the time they said, it can't be me, it must be them. And the next time, it can't be me, it must be them. And the next time, and you think, hold on a second, there's a pattern forming here. So I've written this book, which has got a fantastic piece of kit inside called the added value concept, which challenges people to think how they add value and how good their PR is at work. My PR was shocking at work. I used to wind up the managing director for sport, really, and that's not a good policy, I tell you. So I've paid my dues and learned my lessons. And then this year we had Bouncing Back, which I'm very pleased with. And I decided this year that I'd had enough of Norfolk, lovely place that it is, and I would go global. So I went to Australia, as you do, and had basically a book tour and a PR tour and a lecturing tour, and went via Singapore and Australia, and up via America, and ended up in Vancouver. Did a TV show, which is great fun. And I now understand, actually, why ladies wear makeup, because it's brilliant. And I think if I could vote for anything when I'm president, it would be that us chaps get to wear makeup as well. Because when you've been travelling for 3 weeks and your skin's all burgy and shot to bits, and the lady comes in with the powder and goes, well, take the shine off, you love, and just sort of powders you up, it's magic stuff. Honestly, it's magic stuff. I'd recommend it. I really would. And great fun. There's a serious side to all this, though. Because all of this world tour business obviously sold a few books and earned some shekels, and then that got me a job in Oxford, and then that got me signed to a speaking agency. So I've now signed to a big, prestigious Spanish company, and life is on the up and up. Books and speaking and coaching, and I do lots of Skype coaching, which is fantastic fun. And I've got clients in Spain and Switzerland and Scotland and Bedford and Diss. Skype goes all over the place now, really. It's amazing. And none of the things I've just said I had back in 2009. I had the back end of a business in 2009, and that was really it. And I had a bit of a humbling moment when I thought to myself, who do I know that teaches management theory, change theory, that can help someone to reposition themselves and get a new job. And it turned out that it was me, which is quite shocking when you realise that you're the guy you need to go to and that you've got all the notes on the shelf behind you and all you've got to do is read your own notes. And I felt quite humbled by that because I realised that I had to admit that I didn't really know where I was anymore and what I was doing. And I had to make some changes in my business. And so talking about physis and transition and thinking really helps me to map the changes that I made. And the invitation to you is to invite you to think about changes that you might like to make. So physis, just stick your hand up if you've heard that word before, physis. I should have had a bet with Rich that no one would put their hands up, actually. And it's a word that means life force. Physis, life force. It comes all the way back from ancient Greek. And when we think about how we keep going, and why do some people seem to keep going and some people seem to falter, then we can look at this word physis as a really interesting concept to think about what can we do with our own life force. And one of the ways of describing it is it's the force that causes a little seed to germinate and then push its way up through a crack in the paving and grow into a big sunflower. And there's lots of council car parks with concrete or tarmac and plants growing up through it. You think, how does that work? Well, physis, this idea of life force, is what pushes us forwards. And what's really interesting for me is that we all have it. I'm not going to hold up a glass of physis and say, I've got some delicious physis. You must get some of this physis. It's brilliant, guys. I'm not going to sell you physis. Quite honestly, if I could, do you really think I'd be standing here if I could sell you life force in a bottle? I'd be on a Czech show somewhere. But the thing is, you've all got it inside you. And the metaphor that I use with clients is that of a reservoir, huge reservoir full of the energy. And when we have a tough time, the sluice gate comes down on it, and it just chokes off that supply of energy. And in my life, it was equivalent to me being sat in my office thinking, what do I do now? I don't know. I don't know anybody in Norfolk. My work had been outside of Norfolk, so I didn't know anyone in Norfolk. Didn't have any clients, really, anymore. Couldn't sell them the stuff because they'd got rid of the people that used to buy the stuff from me, which was a pretty tricky deal with. And I realised that it's about opening this sluice gate so that you allow the flow to come out, and that powers you forwards. And that gets you thinking new thoughts, going to networking meetings, meeting new people, taking those books off your bookshelf that you've had for 3 years and never quite got round to reading. Does anyone have any management business how-to books on their bookshelf? Does anyone take them off the shelf on a regular basis and read them? A few people going, yeah, I know this. I rang up one of my own business colleagues. I've got another business. And I said to my friend Andy, I need some help. I don't know what to do. And I know that if I do something, I'll get somewhere. And he said, have you got the book Good to Great by Jim Collins? Great little book. I said, oh, yeah, I've got that. He said, have you read it? And I went, don't be silly. It's about that thick. You know, I don't have that much time in my life. So he said, go and look up Economic Engine and then come back to me when you've read it. And an economic engine is the heart of your business that makes it tick. And I realised that in the sort of crash of 2009, my engine had got ripped out and thrown away because people didn't want training courses in the old way, really. And I had to go and find a new engine. And in order to do that, I needed some energy from this big reservoir of energy to power me forwards and go and do new things. And I had some coaching and I had some supervision and I had lots of things called affirmations. And I learned that we have to accept that we have an unlimited supply of energy. However bad it might feel, it's all there parked up behind us. We're good people. We can go places. I learned to accept that other people might be well-meaning, but sometimes they can be misguided, and that the help they offer us might actually get in the way. As a small story on this, in this end, when I was made redundant, many years ago now, I said to the senior manager who was giving me my exit interview, I'd like to go on and do different things. He said, what would you like to do, Richard? I said, I'd really like to go being a consultant. I'd love to be a consultant. I've seen them come into the business. And do you know what his reaction was? Oh, no. Like Churchill, no. I said, what's the matter? He said, you're not bright enough to be a consultant, Richard. So this is a guy making me redundant. I hope you have a nice life. What would you like to do? Be a consultant? You're not bright enough to be a consultant. And what went through my head was, I beg to differ. I really do. I am going to be a consultant because I know that I'm good enough. And I know that if I listen to you, that will help me to put the sluice gate back down and say my life force is going to be diminished and I can't do it. But if I give myself an affirmation, yes, I can be a consultant. There are hundreds of ways of being a consultant. I'll find the way that works for me, thanks, pal. And that's what I did. I shall meet him shortly, I think, and shake him by the hand and say, how wrong were you? But anyway, have one of my books. I've learned that we need to change our self-talk. I read a book yesterday, and it had a great phrase. It said, your I can is more important than your IQ. Your I can is more important than your IQ, which I think is a great phrase. So many people say, oh, I couldn't write books. Why not? I've not had any training. I've taught myself. Oh, I couldn't do a radio show. I haven't had any training. I taught myself. Yeah, but in terms of speaking, I couldn't do that. Yeah, but I practice and practice and practice and practice. Because I can do it and I want to do it and I want to do it and I can do it. So think about your self-talk for a second. The next time you're faced with a difficult situation, a client who perhaps is going to give you a difficult time, a business decision that's been vexing you, and you think, oh, it's a tricky one, but I've got to take it. What's your self-talk? Where is your physis and your life force? Do you give yourself a friendly affirmation and say, an affirmation, by the way, is a key that unlocks the door to future potential, and say, do you know what, I can have this conversation and I can still be friends with the person in front of me, and we can separate business and friendship. The business side isn't working, let's concentrate on the friendship side and keep going. I'm going to get through tomorrow intact with all my arms and all my legs. I am a good person, I have a right to be here, and I have a right to make decisions. Because actually, fundamentally, I'm okay inside. So bring it on. Let's have a go. And that, in a sense, is physis. It's our life force that's inside us. And when you want to bounce back in business, your life force needs to be strong, and it needs to be flowing, and you need affirmations and support. And if you have a tough day, it's actually quite all right to go and have a few tears, have that extra cup of coffee, go and get an extra Kit Kat maybe, and make yourself feel better. And also it's okay to say, do you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to clear my desk, I'm going to phone a friend, I'm going to get the book off the shelf. I'm going to remind myself that I am a great person. I've got skill and talent, and I can do this. If I don't know how to do it, I'll get someone to help me. Useful word? Useful word? I blogged about it this week, so if you go to richardmorn.com, there's a piece about it, about physis, and its origins and where it comes from. It's not my words. I can't claim to have invented it. It would be nice if I had. But it invites us to think about our life force. It's always there, parked up. All we've got to do is get it flowing for us. So, for example, you can change your life. You can learn new skills. And I think the one that works for me more than anything else, you can find a way that works for you. If you think about growing your business in your way, it's your business, you can find a way that works for you. I was talking to a client this week who said, I've been asked a question by a recruitment consultant, who manages your career? And he said to this person, I don't know. So she said, I'll manage your career for you, and we'll go in that path, and we'll go over there, and we'll put you into an ops director post in 5 years. And you'll get paid £150,000. And I said to him, is that what you want? He said, no, I want to be a coach and do fell walking and things like that. So I said to him, quite obviously, perhaps you're the best person to manage your career rather than someone who might be well-meaning but may not be quite as impartial as they're making themselves out to be. You're here with your businesses. You'll make your decisions for your business. So, physis. Think about that word. Think about how you choke the energy off, or how you affirm yourself and your own power. I'm I'm sorry there are no jokes in this bit, really, because physis is quite an important word, and I think it's what keeps us going. It's what brings us here tonight. Whilst there might be a few people at home saying, wish I'd gone, actually. That would be quite a good thing to go to. Perhaps it'll come next time, hey? Who knows? So that's physis. We're going to talk about transition and thinking. When I talk about transition, what's really interesting is that we're all in transition all the time from this point to that point, from this point to that point, and so on and so forth. We don't know where it is. We don't know whereabouts each other is in transition. Now, in terms of transition, I have 7 stages. I developed a model called the high seas model, because I'm quite a visual thinker, and I like the idea of you being in a little ship bobbing around on the sea. So here are 7 stages to get your teeth round. I'll read them out and I'll go back through them. Firstly, stressful chaos, followed by tense calm, followed by free cleansing. And then we have anxious consideration at number 4, helpful catching at number 5, careful coordination at number 6, and finally, perhaps my favourite, joyful celebration at number 7. Because if you never stop and celebrate, it's just one meaningless journey after another, quite frankly. If you never take time out to go to lunch, you never stop and say, that was good. I'm going to treat myself to a new book by author Richard Morn. No, I don't have to. Otherwise, life is just an unremitting load of work. And on your gravestone, you might have, I worked for 50 years and then I died. What was all that about? It's not very inspiring, perhaps, to the people that come after us, is it? So maybe whilst you're thinking about this, ask yourself, when was the last time did you bunk off your own work and go and have lunch? Or phone up your partner and say, lunchtime, we're going to the cafe, we're going to have steak and chips because we're not washing up tonight. Or maybe do breakfast. So we're going to go and have a big fat breakfast today and just set ourselves up for the day. Do you do that regularly? One person does. I didn't used to, because I used to say to my wife, oh, we can't go out for dinner because you need a babysitter, we've got children, it's complex, we're tired, blah, blah, blah. And we realised, duh, we're working at home in our own businesses, we can bunk off whenever we like and go to a cafe and have lunch. And then, of course, tell all our friends who do PAYE jobs, we bunked off and had lunch today. And they go, we don't want to hear about it, we don't want to hear about it, we don't get lunch breaks. So, transition, stressful chaos, it's stormy. Your job when it's stormy, just hang on. The storm will pass. Time always flows and time always passes. Don't worry about it. And then you get to that point post-storm where you're in tense calm. It's a bit like, for me, thinking about a previous job loss situation, I kind of knew it was coming. It was miserable getting up to that point. But once I was through it, there was a kind of becalmed feel to my life. I didn't have much to worry about, really, for a few moments, and that was quite interesting. In fact, I used one of those spaces to write my first book. Took advantage of it. Had a mini career break, which I quite like, really. The one that I think speaks to me most is this idea of free cleansing. If we never change anything, we'll never do anything different. So if you have a cluttered office, just out of interest, who does have a cluttered office? You know, own up here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Does that mean the rest of you have a spotless office? Or you're just not confident enough to go, yeah, mine's really, really messy. I had this lesson myself a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't get my own book on my own shelf because it was so full of other people's books and accumulated nonsense from the last 5 years. And you know these sliding tile games where you kind of move one book to there, to move one book to there, and one drops off the shelf so you move it all the way round, and then you find a bunch of papers that you forgot you had, and you think, why am I keeping these, and chuck them away. And then you have to kind of put a pile on your chair so you can move the rest of the shelf around, and then you think, right, that's it, and you just throw the whole lot on the floor and start again. Ever done that? Yeah, a few nods here. If you never do that, how are you ever going to change your business? Because if we start to free up our environment, then we free up our thinking. And environmental considerations are very important in business. You know, things like sick building syndrome, which used to be talked about a lot. Environment is very important to us. So actually, if we change our own home environment, if we clean things out, literally, chuck them away, get rid of them, they're just baggage, we free up space in our brains to start thinking different things. And I think the best thing I did was just sweep my desk clean, and one day just went, that's it, it's all gone. Clean desk now. What shall I do differently? I'll start again. See, once we've done some free cleansing, we then need to make considerations. And the point about considering things is lots of people are very good at doing. Are you more of a doer or a thinker? Some people are thinkers, doers. Any doers in here? Oh, come on, please. It's a networking event. Be full of doers. It's very tempting if your business needs to bounce back a bit to rush off and start doing things. And actually, the smart money is on thinking for a bit, because thinking's free. Doing tends to cost you money, and it gets you into a pickle somewhere if you're not careful. I had a client once who wanted to buy himself a brand new laptop, but he said, I've costed it out about £2,500. I think he got a NASA laptop or something. And I said, what was your business? And he said, oh, I go and I talk to people. I said, what do you use your laptop for? And he went, oh yeah, good point. But because his brain had gone, I want to get a laptop and that's a nice one and I've got the money for that and I go and buy it, he hadn't actually connected up what it was he would use it for. It's a silly story, but I saved him £2,500. I mean, he was quite a happy camper. So careful, anxious consideration is about being methodical and actually gathering some facts. What is the marketplace? What am I missing? What are my competitors doing? Rather than just simply doing. And within your business, if you've got colleagues that work with you, it's actually praising them for thinking and saying, I like the way you thought about that. A good test of this is to sit at your desk like this and see how long it takes for the MD to come swooping in whilst you're sitting there and go, Morn, you're not doing anything, do some work, I'm paying you, I'm paying you. And just say confidently, no, it's okay, I'm thinking. You going to try it? Feeling brave? Because in theory, if your organisation celebrates thinking, you ought to be able to sit at your desk and say, this is me working, and this is me thinking. And the two should be respected and praised equally. It's not always been the case in my businesses. However, I work for myself. And sometimes my work looks very much like me playing the bass guitar. And my hands might be moving up and down the fretboard, but my brain is thinking cool business thoughts. That's how I think. So let's have a look. We have consideration, hopeful catching. You've got to go and do some things. You've got to hoist your sails and try and catch the wind and see if they'll take you forwards. And if they don't, maybe tack off in a different direction. Because I like the old metaphor of boats. I mean, we're by the coast here. We can go down to up to Sheringham or something and see some boats bobbing about and use that to think about where we are with our business. What's really interesting is that when you get to careful coordination, is reflection is key. You have to take a step back and think, is this working? Because all of your businesses are in effect bouncing back because they're bouncing along. They're going from this place to this place and this place to this place. If your business is static, then I wouldn't sit here for the rest of this piece. I'd rush off to your business and do something about it if it's static. Because if it is static, just even allowing for inflation, competitive forces and things, you'll probably go bust in a couple of years. But don't worry, you can start again, you can bounce back. It's not a problem. There may be some consequences, of course, and going bust can be a bit messy, but we can deal with that, we can sort that. Reflection is key. Now, the reason I mention this, I redesigned a product recently. When I was struggling a bit, I realised that not all of my colleagues were struggling as much as me, which is quite annoying, really, because people have a general herd mentality, and as long as we're all struggling over here equally, we don't mind, because we can always say, yeah, we're strugglers, yeah, we're fine, we're fine. But as these guys start to do really well and leave me behind, that leaves me in a club of one, and that's not much fun, being in a club of one. And I realised that two other of my business colleagues were doing quite well. 2009, it was a recession, didn't seem to have touched them. And when I peered at their businesses, I realised for me they had certificated training courses, which I didn't have at the time. So I had a choice. And I joined the ILM. I didn't know how to join the ILM, so I went onto Twitter one day and said, help, I'm stuck. Anybody help me? I need a centre manager. A very nice lady called Margaret said, I know just the person who can help you, Richard. Monday morning, a week later, this phone call went. This lady said, you're looking for help. And I said, here's the deal. I'm going to give you a bag of money. And in return, you can give me ILM accreditation. A very simple exchange. Worked like a charm. And it then meant I had a course that I could now sell to people who have got accreditation. I sold the course very successfully. If you're interested, it was level 5 coaching using transactional analysis. A bit different to your regular courses, but great fun. I sold a few. And then I realised it stopped selling. Not very good, really. So I redesigned it. And I took a punt and emailed a client and said, I know you wanted to buy this course and you said you couldn't afford it. So I've got a new course, which was a lie, I hadn't. And so I've got a new course that you can do over Skype using Dropbox, cheap as chips, £197 a month. Do you want it? And he went, 5 seconds later, yep, done, book me in. So then I went and redesigned the course because I've got the sale, so now I can design the course properly. He didn't need to know the sequence of events. Wasn't exactly as I'd painted them. That's for me to know and him to find out. You know, that's just a secret between us. But the point was, if I hadn't reflected, I'd have kept on struggling. So when you think about your business, how often do you reflect with your colleagues? There's a good piece of kit from lean manufacturing called Gemba, where you stand in a circle, literally, and you stop and you watch to see what's happening in your business. I know that me and Rich have done it in a previous life. And when you stand still, it's amazing who you see having a surreptitious go on Facebook, who you see going to the water cooler for the 3rd time in half an hour for another conversation, who doesn't answer the phone that rings off the hook for 8 rings, and you think, I'm sure there's someone around here somewhere. And when you stand still, you notice lots of things. And when I stood still in my own business, I realised that bits of it weren't working. And I had a choice. I could say to myself, I'm not selling hard enough, or I could say, I need to do something about this and redesign my products. So the invitation to you when you go back into your business tomorrow or the day after or the day after that is just stand still and notice what's happening. It's very informative. The Japanese do it a lot in manufacturing circles because unless you stand still, the detail just goes past you. So when we think about transition, it's okay to be fed up. It's okay to be really angry and cross and, oh, the world's done it to me again, and then to do something about it. Because I did. I had a choice. But yeah, I've got four kids to feed. And so I want to do something with my life. Do what I love. I love books and radio and speaking. It's brilliant. Why would I want to do anything else? Maybe I'll get some red trousers and do the whole thing, you know. Now, thinking. 2 or 3 things about thinking. Do you remember the cartoon Wile E. Coyote? No? Some people go, no. Do you know Roadrunner? Okay, Roadrunner. Well, Roadrunner, Meep Meep used to run around, and Wile E. Coyote would try and get him, basically, by having dynamite on a big boulder, and Roadrunner would run past, and the dynamite would explode, and the boulder would move an inch. So Wile E. Coyote would rush around and go up to it, and the boulder would fall on him, clunk. And then he would have another scheme where he would have a tunnel. He'd paint the tunnel on the edge of a cliff, and the Roadrunner would run up the cliff and over the top, and Wile E. Coyote would go up to it, and as he went to the edge of the tunnel, a train would come out, pow, and flatten him. And the point of Coyote thinking is it's when you're just rushing around, reacting, and not really learning. And Wile E. Coyote never caught the Roadrunner because he never learned. He had Coyote thinking. Not very good thinking, this. The second not very good style of thinking is called canyon thinking. Proverbially known, 1 inch wide, 1 mile deep. Where you get so lost in the detail and the loveliness of the detail. Oh, it's beautiful down here. You forget that there's daylight up there somewhere. I do a lot of lecturing at Cranfield, and no disrespect to PhDs, but sometimes they can get really stuck in this. In their field, they're fantastic. But sometimes you've got to, look around you. I got caught with this, with my own concept the other week. And designing a website for Corporate Richard. Hi, I'm Corporate Richard. Hi, Corporate Richard. And my web designer said, let's have some colour. Oh, love colour. Let's put the books up. Oh, we love the books. Let's have a nice weave and a pattern. And we spent all afternoon going, oh, let's weave the pattern like this. Well, that looks nice. And we'll tweak that and we'll tweak that. Have a bit of red and a bit of blue. And it was lovely. If I did it like that, it was the loveliest website I've ever designed. And I came home and showed my wife, and she went, looks like the London Underground. All these lines, coloured lines going everywhere. So I then compared, I said, that'd be fine. I compared it to 1 or 2 benchmark corporate coaching sites from competitors. Wow, there was a difference. Mine said, hi, I'm Richard. I go to Amsterdam sometimes. Their website said, hi, I'm Corporate Bob, and I'll fix your business. And I realised I'd spent 2 days basically mining myself a great big hole and going 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep because I was in love with what I'd done. I had to completely junk the work and say to my designer, boy, did we get that wrong. I had to start from scratch. I had to pay her for her time as well. What a nuisance. But hell. See how thinking gets you kind of in a pickle sometimes. My new website, by the way, is brilliant, and I love it. But it wasn't. I shall keep the first iteration as a memoir. Oh, that was painful. Oh, we won't go there. No colour. So, I have got, in terms of thinking, one style of thinking and then an exercise for you to do. Helicopter thinking is when you get above your business in your helicopter and you look down on it, a bit like Gemba, and you see what's going on. And I'd like you to do some thinking about your brand. People have been pitching themselves today. How do you describe yourself? And in the book, we have what I call the 3-word brand. It's just a way of synthesizing where you are. Now, I'm going to read out some words to you, and I'd like you to think of the list, which 3 best describe you or your business or the way you operate with people. You might only have to choose one, because you might just go, hey, brilliant. That'll do for me, no problem. So here are some words for you. Expert, tough, reliable, skilled, punctual, adaptable, ethical, creative, playful, be careful with that one, you can get into trouble, outgoing, caring, personable, friendly, skillful, and finally, attentive. You can add your own words to the list, of course. These are my words that appear in the book. When I did it for myself, I thought, well, actually, I'm friendly, skillful, and adaptable. Those are the sort of 3 things that characterize me. And the point of this is when you give yourself a 3-word brand, you can start to differentiate yourself from other people. Because we have 2 or 3 coaches in the room, we have 2 or 3 financial whiz kids in the room and things like that. And you're all great people, and you'll all do things slightly differently in different ways, and by promoting those ways, customers can choose you. Because in the words of the great Theodore Levitt, who wrote a fantastic book called The Marketing Imagination, which I would recommend to anybody, he says, differentiation is the essence of success. If you differentiate yourself, people can choose you. So 3-word brand. And actually from the 3-word brand, I realised that for me, I build confidence. That's what I do. Whether I call it coaching or training or one-to-one stuff or career turnaround, I build confidence. So just for a second, have a look at those words and just put a ring round the ones that apply to you and maybe share them with me after this piece if you want to. Or say, add your own words. So in 3 words, brilliant, more brilliant, and completely brilliant. And modest too, I think, as well. We'll add that on the bottom, shall we? Read them out again. Expert, tough, reliable, skilled, punctual, adaptable, ethical, creative and playful, outgoing and caring, personable, friendly, skillful, attentive. If you haven't got them, by all means, just thumb your way through a copy of this. They'll be in the back of this. You don't have to buy it. Just have a look. They'll be in there. So 3-word brand. Think about your 3-word brand and how you describe yourself when you're networking, when you're talking to people. And they say, hi, who are you and what do you do? Now, finally, because we're coming to the end of this piece, I have 10 ways to create opportunities. Because we're a networking group. We're talking about bouncing back. It's pointless doing great thinking if there's no sales attached to it at some end. Thinking for its own sake is just navel-gazing, and I'm sure your navels are lovely, and you can gaze at them at will whenever you like, but it's not going to feed the kids, I'm afraid. So here are 10 ways that I used to get opportunities when my business was stuck. I'll read them out quite quick, because I want to get to number 10, really, because that was the one that I like. Number 1, increase the number of contacts. Sounds simple, but how many people have set themselves a monthly target for Facebook contacts? When I started, I knew 50 people on Facebook, and that was it. And now I know upwards of about 4,000. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I set myself targets every month. I would go to 50, 100, 200. LinkedIn has a toolbar that allows you to push the button and it automatically checks whether you're actually linked to someone who's new on your system. Great thing. Talk to people. I eat lots of cake. I drink lots of tea. You're very welcome to come to Holt and buy me cake and tea. I like it very much. And we'll have a conversation and we'll just find a friend. That's how I got Julie, my co-host. We had cake and we realised that we both wanted to be stand-up comedians. And sometimes we probably sat down comedians in the studio and we just clicked and, you know, rest is history. Radio show is fantastic. Number 3, ask for something. I can't read your mind. I run a networking website and people say to me, I'm looking for a job as a production manager. I could probably find you a job as a production manager, but you need to tell me what you're looking for. So sometimes when we're doing our 60 seconds, instead of telling people what we do, say to people, I am looking for a client who. My client is this shape. Do you know of anybody? Listen to people's frustrations at number 4. Good coaching question. If someone says, oh, these trousers are really frustrating me. Oh, I could sell Richard some new trousers maybe. Get rid of his frustrating trousers and into some lovely trousers. Frustrations show up needs and wants, so mind them. Number 5, just say yes. I know years and years ago Nancy Reagan would say just say no. But she was talking about something else. And if someone says, can you do it? The answer is, yes, I can do it. And then you go away and ring your friend and say, I haven't got a clue how I do this, but get yourself around and we'll work it out. Because saying yes opens opportunities. Number 6, notice what your competitors are doing. My competitors were better than I was. They're not anymore. And I've offered a number of my competitors ILM registration in a box. You can have my procedures, you can have a couple of starter courses in a box. I'll charge you for them, but it will shortcut 8 months of pain. Do you know how many people have taken me up on this offer? Take a wild guess. None. That's too hard, Rich. I don't want to do that. But you've told me business is suffering and there's a product here that you could sell to your client. And all you've got to do is tick the box, you can have it. That's too hard though, Rich. Fine, I'll have your client then if you don't want them. Easy. Update your social media profiles. When was the last time you changed your Twitter profile, anybody? Or has it been the same since the year dot? Because mine has evolved over the last 2 years, and it now says something very different. In fact, where it says location, it used to say Norfolk, and now it says Gone Global. Because this year I've been to Australia and Canada, and I've got Skype coaching clients in, as I said, sort of this, and it's great when the same joke works twice, so I thank you for that. I appreciate that. It's good on your part there. And the books have been translated into about 6 different languages. And so it's very tempting to say, oh, I haven't gone global, I'm just Richard from Holt. No, I have, and I'm carrying on in that vein. Because I like it and I work hard. Celebrate yourself. Be proud. Visit exhibitions. Go networking. We heard about the business exhibition coming up. Go along there. And number 10, fly a kite. Ask the question, how would it be if I took a piece of work off a client only yesterday by saying, how would it be if you and me did a piece of training inside your business and I'll write it and I'll do all the heavy lifting and you can teach with me and we'll both teach your staff. And he said, cool, that'd be quite good fun. I quite fancy that. So I said, I'll go and write the spec and we'll endorse it to ILM. You can have your own course and I'll do all the work and you can have all the fun of presenting. And he said, yep, we'll do that. Cash in the till. How would it be if ... So, that was number 10. Number 9 was kind of go networking. And again, it's all in here. If you don't want to buy it, it's cheaper on Amazon than it is from me. But have a look while the books are here. Have a thumb through. So let's bring this plane into land then. I've got a summary. I've got 3 rules of success. I've got a message. I'll say thanks and we'll have questions at the end. Maybe we'll start with a thanks. Thanks, guys, for coming here today. Because if you don't come here, there is no iPatter Business Network. There are no conversations. I don't get to be here. Rich gets to keep his red trousers in the wardrobe hanging up for another month. Thank you for coming if you're a new to networking person and you've decided to give it a punt. Because we were all new once, and I was ever so nervous. I even said to a friend once, will you hold my hand? And she said, don't be silly. I said, I'm not joking. If you can get me into the room, I'll be okay. And people say, but Richard, you're so confident. I didn't used to be that confident. It's all done with smoke and mirrors. So thank you for coming, and thank you for listening for the last 40 minutes or so. I like what I do. I love it. I love sharing it. It's me and my life. So we need to keep on bouncing. We shape our own future. We manage our own careers, not somebody else. It's up to us. It'll be our headstone at the end of the day that said, these guys had a lovely career. They worked really hard. They did something they love. So 3 rules, the essence of success, as grafted through by me since 2009. Number 1, create your own opportunities. No one is going to knock on your door. Number 2, trust your intuition. If it feels right and you've got a good sense about it, go there. And lastly, keep going. Going back to thinking about physis. Keep going. I haven't just written 5 books. It's taken me since 2002. It took me 18 months to break the deal for Australia. And whilst I was out there, I managed 3 time zones for 3 weeks. And I just kind of kept going through it and kept going through it. So keep going. And my final point is, do what you love. Because if you do what you love, you will bounce back. And I know this because back in 2009, my wife said to me one day, Richard, it's time you went and got a job. And I said to my wife, no, I already have a job, and it's a job that I love. The task I need to do is to make it pay. But I'm not changing my job because I love it. So that's really the message at the end of this. Do a job that you love, and you will bounce back. So thank you for listening. I'm going to pause here, and then we'll take some questions. So thank you.